one pride. It's the Lions Squad, sponsored by Game Time. Everything Detroit Lions every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Motor City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. From the roar of the Lions to the next great chapter, the Lions Squad Show starts now.
All right, and here we go. Welcome into the second preseason postgame Locked On Lions Squad Show. And admittedly, this one took quite the turn in a totally different mood as we take the air. Jake Riepma alongside the 20-year NFL veteran Bradford Banta. And again, this is your live Locked On Lions Squad Show, post-game show after the Lions, we'll say, defeat the Atlanta Falcons 17-10. But the big story in this one, the injury to Morice Norris that ends this game early. And Bradford right off the cusp. That's where we start, obviously. And just to remind you, make sure you like and subscribe to the Locked On Lions Squad Show. We'll be with you post-game and, of course, a weekly show as well. But Bradford, this one took a turn, and really, for it being the preseason, something you don't expect to see.
Something you don't expect to see, and as a former player, you never want to see. It's a very somber moment. The reality of the situation is that, hey, these guys are people too. It's you hate to see it, no matter what side of the ball. These guys are all going through the same stuff, and it's sad to say. You don't want to see that happen to anybody. Yeah, your competitors on the field and you compete, but it's not a good situation. And nothing but prayers for Morice, and you hope he comes out of this on top.
No doubt about it. And as we get started on our second ever Locked On Lions Squad Show post game, a reminder that you can get this show wherever you get your podcasts, and of course on YouTube, all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every day. We are going to have a show and go through what we saw today, some of the pros, some of the turnovers. So obviously that on the con side of thing, what we saw from Malik Hooker making his first start of the preseason, and Bradford, some of your coaches' notes that we'll get to as well. But again, when something this unexpected and this unprecedented happens, it just kind of takes over the mood, the tone. And again, you and I both, you playing at the highest of high levels, and I'm sure there's examples where you've had that you can recall some pretty gruesome injuries, whether it be to you or to players on your team. I can recall a time in my college career where the ambulance is on the field and you see one of your brothers, one of your teammates being loaded up into the back of an ambulance. And then it's just pretty difficult to flip that switch and get back into playing. We should also remind you that your comments are welcome, and we'll take your comments all throughout the course of the show, mix in a little interaction, keep this as light as we can given the heavy circumstances that transpired at the end of that game. So with that, Bradford, I do think we kick it off right there that, hey, you know, you've worn the uniform in the NFL, you've worn the uniform at USC at the highest level, collegiately and professionally. To the best of your ability, when an injury like that happens, you saw the two teams come together and say some prayers in a moment of solidarity. I think that just speaks volumes to the magnitude of the injury that took place, as far as what Morice Norris is going through and the head injury, and hopefully he'll find himself on the other side of it, and this team can rally around it, because that was just a really, really difficult situation.
No, it was, Jake. You know, you can't really put it into words, but I'm going to try. And you put the helmet on. Everybody puts a helmet on. You have right now that's 180 players putting the helmet on and out on the field of play. And you have over, whenever the season kicks off for regular season one, you're going to have about 1,700 players that are journeying towards a common goal of winning the Super Bowl trophy. You have 53 players on a roster. You have, I don't know what the number is for the amount on practice squad. And you're all in it together, especially since the advent of free agency back in 1993. With the amount of player movement has just increased as the years have gone by. Guys get to know each other a little bit, you tend to cross borders, so to speak. Just watching the game on TV tonight, to watch TJ Lang, who played umpteen number of years up in Green Bay, to be announcing a game for Detroit, but he came down here and played. And, it just speaks kudos to the league and what they're doing. But we're all in this together, and you just don't want to see any player get hurt. Just to kind of share a little bit of a story with you, probably one of the wilder stories that I've ever been associated with. It happened whenever I was out at USC, and it involved a player getting injured, but in a different type of way. And what I mean by that is we're all out on the practice field, and it was a freshman linebacker. And, you heard drive-bys and you heard the shots and stuff, being SC where it's located. But this was back in the day. It has since changed a little bit. The neighborhood has changed a little bit. But probably about a quarter mile away, we were out on the practice field, and you heard these shots. And then you heard one of these linebackers start yelling for the trainer. And you're like, it's a walkthrough. Why are you yelling for the trainer? And then he yells out, I've been shot.
Oh my gosh.
Everybody's head just goes whoop, and just locked onto him. And sure enough, it went through his bicep, and he was out of his tricep, and he was bleeding down his arm. And everybody's like, holy cow. So everybody runs up against the wall. You don't know if it's a sniper. You don't know anything, right, up until that point. And I'd say within about 5 minutes, we had, SC police, we had LA SWAT, we had, I couldn't tell you how many helicopters we had overhead searching. But, we got him. The ambulance came out onto the field, got him patched up, took him to the hospital. And then he is, as soon as everything's cleared out, the head coach brings us up. He's like, all right, let's finish practice. Everybody looks at him like, are you kidding me? Are we going to practice right now? And sure enough, we finished practice. So, it kind of tells you the mindset of the times, right? Things have changed. And I think things have changed for the better for the players, in the sense that, hey, these are people. These are people too. And, and you can see Raheem and Dan got together at midfield while all this was going on. And, that was discussed. And you saw Dan bring the team together at midfield and said, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to run the clock out. They're going to snap the ball. They're not going to do anything. They're going to hold on to it. All 22 O&D, if you want to get together for a prayer, which they did, rightfully so, got together for prayer, circled up. I thought it was, like you said, a great show of solidarity. And finally, I would imagine somebody from the league office got a hold of Hockley, the referee, and was like, okay, if they're not going to run another play, we just need to suspend the game.
Right.
And and rightfully so, that's what they did. And because the same instance happened in the DeMar Hamlin case in Buffalo, with Buffalo. And you just hope nothing but the best for Morice Norris. And kudos to both teams, and kudos to the head coaches, Dan and Raheem, for coming to this decision and deciding not to play the rest of the game. It's a
Absolutely.
preseason game.
Right.
And
I
it being in the fourth quarter, it's a preseason game.
Yep. Showed a lot of leadership on both sides. And let's mix in some of these comments here. Chad, the TH historian, says respect to Raheem Morris. I think, respect to Raheem Morris, but being, technically the coach that was of the other team, you could, I wouldn't expect any coach to, if whoever presented it first to say, hey, let's suspend this game, but it just made the most sense on all accounts. I was actually listening to some of the Atlanta Falcons broadcast for a little bit because I was just kind of curious going back and forth and being studying that side of things as well, that how they would handle that, and same kind of thing, just as a sign that times have in fact changed. It's a player-driven league. You got to do the right thing for the human being first, and I think that was on display for tonight in a lot of different ways. A couple people want to get their comments in. Jacob Hendricks says prayers up for Morice Norris. David QZZ says prayers up as well. And a couple other people asking what happened. And I mean, just a freak play. It didn't even Bradford, I ask you, for me, seeing it in real time, I would have never expected there to be, at this gruesome injury following the collision. Now, I mean, he's a safety coming up, filling the hole after running back had probably
trying to make a play. Yeah.
Right. The running back had probably 5 to 10 yards head of steam. So it's certainly a collision in the hole, but not outside the normal parameters of any running play with a safety filling the hole.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, we didn't get a chance to see it on replay all that much because rightfully so, they're not going to show that play on TV. I mean, it's, something's going to happen. And that's what people don't understand is if you've never been down on the field for a live NFL football game, you may have been one in high level college football or, high school football. It's different. It is totally different. I can tell you after being 22 plus years in the NFL and then going to Michigan, I went to my first practice and then went to my first game and, at Michigan, and it had been a while since I had gone to a game. I was like, God, this game's so slow because it's just the amount of force that these players can generate out of their bodies. Sometimes the body just can't keep up. And this is an example of it. And he happened to just get caught possibly in the exact right spot where an injury could happen. And unfortunate. It's unfortunate for Maurice that it happened that way.
Freak thing. And, I think you and I both talking pre-show before we hopped on live wanted to do this the right way and kind of unexpected twist and conclusion to that game in so many different ways. There was more football that we'll discuss, but not that anyone would turn the recorded version, the audio only version on and fast forward through the first segment. But when we do start talking football, I think it's imperative to just reiterate that was the takeaway from today. Our prayers are up for Morice Norris. I think that goes without saying, but I just want to hone that in even more because at the end of the day, human lives are certainly far above any preseason game, any regular season game, playoff game for that matter. And so we want to certainly let the show lead with our thoughts and certainly prayers with Morice Norris tonight.
very much.
So, all right, just I want to make sure that we had that in there, and that is that goes at the underlining takeaway from today. But we will talk a little bit about Hendon Hooker's performance, what we saw from Kyle Allen, what we saw from the offense, some of the turnovers, some of the touchdown drives as well. And as always, we'll take your comments. So appreciate everybody that's tuning in tonight on a live Locked On Lions squad. Don't go anywhere. Segment 2 coming up next. Hey, today's show made possible by our friends over at Monarch Money. You ever wish managing your money felt a little bit easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you the full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. Oh, yeah, it's a complete financial command center where you can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building your wealth. I love the collaboration tools. You can share your finances with your significant other, with your spouse. For me, with my fiance, we get on the same page there leading up to our big day, and that's an important part of it all. And Monarch has helped with their easy collaboration tools. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use that code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com. Today's show is also brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy. That's right. This is the best time of the year, my friends. NFL kickoff is almost here. And that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. This year, the Locked On Lions squad, well, we're playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. I've been using Yahoo Fantasy for years, since back to the days in my 6th grade fantasy football league where you had to calculate the stats and wait till the next morning. And oh yeah, it's come a long ways since then, of course. Light years, in fact. And to celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football right now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. All right, second segment of the night. Wow, just getting going a little too quickly there. Excited to break it all down. Bradford Banta, the 20-year NFL veteran. Let's roll our sleeves up and talk a little X's and O's, what we liked, what we didn't like so much. The group chat was fired up per usual, and also a good time to send a little shout out to the 3rd member of the Locked On Lions squad.
The Rose.
That's right. There's no rose between the two thorns tonight because our very own Natalie Kerwin is doing her thing at the Chris Brown concert, and that's cool. It's preseason, and when we brought Natalie on, we knew there were some dates on the calendar. She had some prior commitments, and who doesn't want to see Chris Brown, I believe, at Ford Field. She said Detroit. I can't remember which venue it is. But that being said, we're excited to welcome Natalie back for the next Locked On Lions squad, which is a friendly reminder we got these shows during the week as well. One show during the week and one post-game reaction for you. So tonight's post-game reaction, aside from Morice Norris and our thoughts and prayers being with him, I start at the quarterback position, a couple of fumbles from Hendon Hooker. Bradford, what'd you see, and what do we still need to see for Hendon Hooker?
Yeah, need to see a lot. So, the thing with Hendon is he had to come in and he had the mindset all week. He knew he was going to be starting. So his mindset should have been, okay, I'm going to go out, take control of the game. I thought he played way too conservative. I thought he was scrambling to run rather than scrambling to pass. There were a couple of incidences during the game whenever he was scrambling and he tucked that ball way too early whenever there were players open down the field. And it just seemed like he had already made up his mind, hey, I'm running the ball no matter what, whenever he started scrambling. And there was a couple players, probably, I know one in particular, but it was sometime obviously in the first 1.5 quarters, because that's what he played. But the second time he scrambled, I know that for sure, there was a player open down the middle seam where if he would have just stopped for a second, and if he was scrambling to throw rather than scrambling to run, then he would have found him and then hit him for a Lions big gain.
Yeah, it's difficult to quantify the ability to keep your eyes downfield. It's not something you're timing with a stopwatch and, oh, this kid runs a good 40 or this kid runs a great 5.10.5, but the awareness and pocket presence or lack thereof. And that's exactly what I texted you after the second fumble. And granted, the defense got on him quickly there on the second fumble in the red zone. But that's another component to playing quarterback in the National Football League, the ability to feel pressure and to have that pocket presence. And I thought the second one, to me, the second fumble, just you're pulling your hair out watching it. You just want this kid to get it and to get each part of what it means to play quarterback in the National Football League, and the speed at which the defense can get on you at times is a huge part of that. And it seems like he's just still miles away from having that presence.
Yeah, because I mean, the success he had in college, you're not seeing it, convert over to the NFL. And that's the one thing, because this is what year going into year 3 for Hendon. And come on, man, it's got to rub off a little bit. I mean, you've got one of the top performing quarterbacks in the league in your meeting room. Now, obviously, they have two totally different skill sets, but you can soak in a little bit of that knowledge, soak it in just a little bit, and just have, and really from Jared's standpoint, it's the knowledge that he brings to that meeting room, along with Brunell, the quarterback coach. And then
another guy that did it for years and years in the league.
Yeah, he did it for years and years, and just have it transfer over to the field. I'm not faulting Hendon for. I mean, there is no lack of trying. I mean, he is busting his behind to do the best that he can, but it's just not transferring out onto the field, and that's a concern. And that's where Kyle Allen comes into play. Because I do a thing where, you got 3 keys to victory, and one of them was win the third down as a team, which they did. They did win the third down. They were at 33%, and Atlanta was at 14.3%.
Yep.
So, Atlanta's offense didn't perform as well. The second one I had was win the turnover battle. Well, they didn't. Why? Because of Hooker. So, and then the win the starting field position. That in my mind was kind of a toss up. Atlanta had their starting field position was a 29. Detroit's was a 28. So that was kind of a wash. So they went 1 for 1, but the turnover battle really hit them hard.
No doubt. Let's mix in some of these comments. Your voices are always welcomed here on our collaborative post-game Locked On Lions squad show. That's one of the beauties of the live broadcast. Lee, I think, was a good comment here and pretty much nailed it. He says, obviously, there's nothing remotely as important as the Norris situation. Nothing else matters today. But on a wider football conversation, Hooker is done. If he's not developing by now, he never will. And I think there's a lot of people that share that same sentiment, and it's really, really tough to argue. Now, still, you get that extra preseason game, so there's still the runway. There maybe is still a little bit of a window there, Bradford, but it feels like it's closing quickly, because now from a team building perspective, from the front office side of things, you have to figure out who QB2 is. You have to figure out if it's Kyle Allen, sure, and maybe it just will be by default because Hooker's inability to take that QB number 2 position, or maybe QB2 isn't on the roster, and that was something we talked about last week. But again, with the extra preseason game, you get to play this out 2 more times to see if somebody can step up and nail that QB2 position down.
I like the last comment. Okay. But anyway,
oh yeah, I'll throw it up on the screen for all of us. Hen done, Hooker. That's from Kenyatta Soul.
Thanks,
done.
Kenyatta. I appreciate it. I appreciate
Anytime you get the host to crack up, you know you nailed it with the comment.
But no, this is where Holmes is going to be working overtime. I'm sure on the plane ride home, all the thoughts are going to be towards Morice Norris. They're going to want updates. They're going to be heading to the trainer. Hey, have you heard anything? Dan's phone is going to be blowing up. Hey, what's going on with Morice? Until he has something confirmed. But on a side note, you still have the business side of the game, and their concern right now is QB2. Has Kyle Allen done enough yet? No, he has not. Based off of his 2 performances, he had a 158 passer rating tonight. Yeah, it was a step in the right direction. Now, can he build on it? That's what I would be looking for. He's definitely going to, if Goff does not start next week, and play a series or 2, if he does not start, then it's going to be Kyle Allen's ship to run, probably first quarter, second quarter, and start the second half. And then you put Hooker in if they haven't replaced Hooker yet. So,
right.
But that's where Holmes is going to come into play, and he and Dan are going to have talks about, okay, who is out there? Who, or better yet, let's look across the league and let's see who's going to be available. Now, is there going to be a veteran quarterback that could possibly be available? You just don't know. You don't know. I would be looking at the Giants. I would be looking to see what happens with the Cleveland situation.
Yeah, I mean, they got six quarterbacks on the roster.
Right, exactly. Let's see. What are some others where you have vets?
Ryan Tannehill was mentioned on last week's show, but my school of thought with a lot of this, just given the structure of what you're afforded to do now with that emergency 3rd string quarterback that doesn't take up the active roster spot on game day, it kind of gives you a little bit more flexibility or leeway with that. And, if you let's call it what it is, if you're in a position in a game where you're having to rely on that emergency 3rd string quarterback, that's you're up the creek without a paddle in a lot of ways. That's it is.
Yeah, but okay. I mean, we're talking about that right now, but let's solidify the number 2 quarterback.
Yeah, true. It's good.
So let's keep it. Let's keep the main thing. What we're talking about right now, and that's the play of the number 2 quarterback. And hey, Kyle Allen still has to ball out in preseason. The Lions' 3rd preseason game and the Lions' 4th preseason game. Given the players that he's going to be playing with, he's got to make it work. All these players have to make it work for a shot on the roster spot. And then each one of these players has to understand their role once the regular season comes around.
No doubt about that. Hey, let's talk a little more about that offense because we saw a couple of touchdowns tonight. There's nothing wrong. We're getting a little excited for some of the playmaking abilities that we saw. So we'll talk some of the Lions wide receiver. I want to get your breakdown of what we saw in the trenches as well, Mr. Bradford Banta, and that is all coming up on the other side. So buckle up, dial it in. We're at halftime right now on another Locked On Lions squad show. Don't go anywhere. We break down the offense.
Can we break for 1 second? Can we hold that break for a second?
Oh, we can do whatever we want. That's the beauty of doing it live.
So just saw a comment here. They said Dan Campbell said, there you go. He has movement in the hospital. So
that is awesome news.
yeah,
Yep.
good news. Good news. Okay.
Yeah, and then
Now,
this time, this time of we're in for the live show anyways. And if you're catching this at a later time, there's probably been new developments and things of that nature, but we'll continue to monitor the situation as best we can. So appreciate that, and appreciate all the viewers commenting in on the Locked On Lions Squad. Back in just a moment. This episode of the Locked On Lions Squad is brought to you by our good friends at 5 Hour Energy. That's right. Listen up and listen good. It's time to fuel up and turn up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, of course, into a quick, energizing shot. And whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories out on the course with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. And let's be honest, some days on the course, or off it for that matter, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and stay energized. You know, you have those wild moments on the course. Maybe it's a hole in one. I'm still trying to get my first hole in one. Or maybe you have a 6-putt on the green. We've all been there. You putt one off the green. Whatever it is, you got to stay fueled up. You got to stay with the positive energy, because golf is a game of twists and turns. It's all about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. The grape, ginger, lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without having to chase down the bev cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your first order. That's LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your first order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. So whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order Transfusion Flavor 5 Hour Energy shots today. And here we go, back with you on the Locked On Lions Squad show, recapping a strange, eventful, for a lot of different ways, Lions-Falcons preseason game. First preseason game for the Falcons, second for the Lions. I'm Jake Riepma, formerly with 97.1 The Ticket, the Lions flagship station, now with Locked On Detroit and 105.3 The Fan. And tossing it over to Bradford Banta, our 20-year NFL veteran. A little playing, a little coaching, a little bit of everything. And that's why we love all the perspective that you bring. Of course, the third member of our squad, Natalie Kerwin, just dancing, singing her heart out at Chris Brown. We miss her. We love her. But she'll be back for our next Locked On Lions Squad show. But Bradford, offensively, couple of fourth down conversions, couple of touchdowns, get the juices flowing a little bit.
Yeah, one thing that, the kid just keeps standing out is T-Slaw, correct? Am I saying that? Pronouncing it correct? Tesla. Okay, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it.
Yeah, remember coleslaw, but the nickname's coleslaw, so Tesla.
I got you.
There you go.
I'll bring up a name for you. Name blast from the past. Joe Fiore. Joe Fiore. You remember the name?
I do. Was it Lions? He had the crazy touchdown dances for the Lions, right?
He had the crazy touchdown dances. About 6'7", somewhere around there. Yeah, like a string bean, built like a string bean.
Yeah.
But he was a red zone threat. So, my man, T-Slaw, correct? T-Slaw. I'm getting it. Yeah. Give me a break. All right, it's preseason. But
that's right. It's our preseason too.
So, he is reminding me of with his touchdown catch tonight in the red zone. It reminded me of Joe. Just being that red zone threat and having that 6'3", a little bit bigger frame for a wide receiver to go up and get the ball. That, to me, that was impressive. And he's going to be making a push. Now, he's going to have to be making his push on special teams, and he's doing that during the week, during practice, I'm sure. So I'll be curious to see how that kid progresses into the regular season, and then how he progresses through the regular season. I think it's great. The other interesting fact here, just offensively, since we're talking about it, Ratledge got his first reps tonight, and I thought he performed well. I was watching him. I agree with a couple of our listeners here. I think Manu struggled just a little bit, but Ratledge, I think he had a good first outing, and it's just a confidence builder, So
yeah, Mike
that's all
commenting
it is.
in. Yeah, Mike Metzger commenting in here. Hey, Bradford, I was watching Manu a lot, really rooting for him. Looked like he struggled to me.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Mike. I agree. But you're going to have, just like the last preseason games, or the last preseason game versus the Chargers. They're going to go about watching this game, and they're going to pick out the good and the bad. And okay, then they're going to have, talking about the coaching staff and the personnel, Brad Holmes and his whole crew as well. They're going to sit down and have a meeting, possibly tomorrow afternoon or even Sunday morning at some time. And they're going to go through the roster. They're going to take names, and they're going to be like, are they, is he worthy of being here? That's the question that's always asked about every player on the roster, 1 through 90. 1 through, I would say 30 is a pretty quick conversation. But the other ones, 31 through 90, who you're looking at up on the board, you're always going to be like, hey, can we upgrade at this position? Because you always want the competition to be at its peak, but you don't want to sacrifice culture as well. And that's where Brad and Dan have done an excellent job of balancing that roster and bringing in the right players and making sure they're a good fit for what they're trying to get accomplished for the Lions organization.
Yeah, no, they absolutely have. And that's an incredible way to put it. And sometimes the culture part of it, it's one of the most, I would say, overused phrases in sports. But I would put the Lions and what Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes have done, and truly in the bucket of this is what changing a culture means. Every team doesn't get to say that because they haven't done it the way the Lions have. Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have changed the culture. All right. Let's talk a little bit about Jackson Meeks. He had 3 receptions tonight, 78 yards, and of course, the touchdown. Yeah. I mean, that's a guy. He had an early drop too. I wrote that down in the notes because Hooker put it right on the money earlier in the contest in the first quarter. I believe it would have been either the second or third drive, but point being, it was a third down, big play right on the money, and he dropped it. And I thought did a nice job of bouncing back from that and really putting together some impressive plays. And then, of course, the touchdown as an exclamation point was good to see. You love that.
Yeah. And then, so you talk about Meeks's drop. Well, Tisla had a drop early on as well. And that, did it help out Hooker? No, it didn't help out his stats. But those two were able to bounce back, and it was Meeks on the long bomb from Allen, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it was Meeks on the long. Yeah. And so, he comes back, he plays well, and then he has the touchdown reception, and then T-Slaw has a touchdown reception as well. It's good to see the younger players getting out on the field and performing. It's fun to watch them perform. You never want to see any player play bad, but those two guys stood out.
Absolutely. Some comments coming in. Kenyatta Stovall, good question here. Was it play calling or QB that made the difference? I'll start with my take, Bradford, then I'll give you the floor. But I think in preseason, there's so much less time spent game planning from a schematical perspective. Nobody's breaking down defenses that the Falcons were going to be throwing out there. It's such an internal focus. And so, and if I'm interpreting the question correctly, I think for Hendon Hooker, the shortcomings are a product of his own inabilities as opposed to maybe a lack of a detailed schematical approach from a game planning perspective that's put together by the coaching staff, because you got to be able to do your own fundamentals and take care of, what it means to play quarterback in the NFL before you start worrying about any of the specific play calls. And obviously coaches want to put players in a position to be successful, but in the preseason, man, that playbook, you're nailing out the day one install type of stuff.
Yeah, they may have game planned, and I say they may have game planned. I seriously doubt they did. So they're just running their basic plays because they want to keep the game plan as simple as possible for these players, especially since Atlanta has not played any games yet. And that's and Atlanta has one game to base it off of. Now, the Dolphins will have 2 games and really you're just looking at personnel from that standpoint, because a lot of the work was already done in the off season on how we want to play these preseason games. And and then they just enact that game plan and don't make very many changes from it. It boils down to, the play calling, but, players make plays, coaches calls. If you talk to any coach, any coordinator, let's say, any play that they put in there, if it's an offensive coordinator, that play that they called is going to score a touchdown. So you talk to any defensive coordinator, that defense that they call is either going to get an interception or it's going to get a TFL or you're going to get a quarterback sack. So everything is designed for success. Now you have the human factor in it. And this is a favorite saying that I like to say is, once those X's and O's start breathing, the game is great. But once it starts breathing, it becomes a whole different animal.
I love that. Once the X's and O's start breathing. Yeah. I used to, when I was playing defensive back and the other guy would run past me and score a touchdown, I'd say, Coach, he's on scholarship too. Come on now, And at the NFL level, you say those guys drive Mercedes too. Come on,
Yeah.
But
some of them do.
Yeah, right. And maybe not. So that's better for the regular season. Maybe not so much in the preseason where you got guys just trying to make the roster. But last thing before we take a quick break, DeMarco Helams for the Falcons, want to make sure I pronounce that correctly, number 23, had a really hard hit on Craig Reynolds there.
Yeah.
And I love to pick your brain because you're also an official too. I forgot to add that. We got every single angle covered here, but Bradford has done a lot of the worked with a lot of officials and on the rules side of thing. In the way we interpret unnecessary roughness now is such a cloudy, unclear wash. And I thought that hit, and obviously from a Lions perspective, I'm glad Craig Reynolds was okay on that play. Kind of got hung out to dry, ball that he's going to try and make a leaping reception on. But I thought it looked like Helms made the shoulder to chest contact, which would be deemed legal, but was still whistled with the unnecessary roughness penalty. What was your interpretation?
Whenever I first saw the hit, so now I'm going to sound like an old guy, back when I played. So, but I played in the 90s. I played in the 90s, and that's when, nobody cared.
Right.
You made a top 10 play on ESPN because of a hit like that. That wouldn't even have made the ESPN top 10 a hit like that. That was just normal. But, the safety of the game. And I will say that these players are bigger, faster, stronger than we were back then. They take better care of their bodies. They're more in tune mentally. They're more in tune physically. They're just better players. They're faster, stronger. You look at some of these guys and you're like, oh my God, how does a 300+ pound person run a sub 540?
Doesn't make any sense.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, it's fascinating. And you love to see the game grow and the guys just getting the most out of their bodies.
No, absolutely.
But
I would also add,
but my Jake, my take on it is, whenever I saw it, I thought it was a clean hit.
no,
But
you have
to take into effect of the defenseless player action there.
Right.
And that's what the officials did whenever the flag was thrown, because there was no argument from Dan whenever it occurred. I mean, there was no argument from Raheem when the flag was thrown. And there was no complaining from Dan before the flag was thrown.
Right.
I thought the Atlanta player did a great job breaking on the ball, and he timed it up just perfectly.
I would also add, too, just going back to the speed of the game that we've talked about at length, the evolution of the equipment, I think, is contributing to the speed at which the game's played. I mean, guys aren't wearing you probably wore like the single bar across, and now they got Revo speeds, and they got
the John Riggins face mask.
Yeah, exactly. Or the big the
I had 2 bars across the middle, by the way. So yeah,
there you go.
Doug Cosby, tight end, Dallas Cowboys. So yeah,
I love it. Guys feel invincible out there and can play that and those speeds because of the.
You
protection.
have to feel invincible to play this game. Mm-hmm. You just have to. You have to be sitting on top of the world, and you're like, I am king, I am alpha, and nobody's going to defeat me. That's what is the biggest draw for this game.
Fire me up.
Is the violence.
Yep.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we saw it. And again, we promise we're not going to just continue to make the entire show about Morice Norris, but that's who we're thinking about tonight. And this is a product, and unfortunately, the other side, the negative side of potential consequences that come from playing this violent game. So, we'll continue, as we've talked all night, lift him up in thoughts and prayers. And hey, what do you say we close it out? We tie a little bow on our second ever post-game Locked On Lions squad show. We'll look ahead to Lions Dolphins. That's coming up next. Don't go anywhere. It's live Locked On Lions squad show. Here we go. Quick little break there for you, and back with you on the Locked On Lions squad show. Jake Riepma alongside Bradford Banta. And we tied the bow on the program tonight, Bradford, looking ahead to the Lions' next preseason game. They'll be at home on Saturday, which is, of course, an easy, shameless little plug for our post-game show. Make sure you join us for that. And if you set up your notifications for Locked On Lions, which you want to do because you want to hear Matt Derry every single day, you want to hear us during the week, and you want to hear the post-game show, you'll get a little notification when we schedule out that live broadcast. But Lions, Dolphins at Ford Field. I think there's something to be said about the difference in routine playing a game at home than being on the road the first 2 preseason games, and how that can, it's one little thing, but hey, it's a notable change that we're seeing now for the 3rd preseason game for this Lions team.
Well, yeah, because you expect possibly the starters to play a series or 2. That's what I think I would expect. Would they finish out a half? If I was running it, which I'm not, I would be like, hey, let's start the game. Let's run a series or 2. You sit, and then, let's think outside the box a little bit. Maybe go out there to start the second half just to get your feet wet and underneath you a little bit. That's highly unlikely not going to happen, them starting the second half, but you want them to start the game in another. Golly, I mean, what would be better? I'm posing the question, putting it out there, and I just happen to think of this. What would be better if they started the game, or they talking about the regular starters, started the game, or they sat the first half and then started the second half?
Just to switch it up. If I'm to
switch it up.
I think that sounds horrible.
Why not?
That sounds horrible.
Yeah. Yeah. No, because it sounds horrible, but I'm putting it out there. And think outside the box a little bit here, Jake. Come on, get with me.
Yeah.
What's your reason?
My reason is if I'm a starter, there's no way in hell I'm sitting around getting cold and tense and tightening up and then trying to go out there and play at 100 miles per hour.
Okay, let's say Dan Campbell comes to you. What is he going to tell you? How is he going to convince you? Hey, let's get warmed up. I want to see how we do start in the second half. What's Dan Campbell going to tell those guys?
Yeah, based on the rapport and trust you've built with Dan Campbell. I mean, he says jump, you say how high. So,
but he's not. Exactly. He's obviously going to have a reason for doing it.
Yeah.
But I think moving into the season, they did it best today whenever they came out in the second half. And they moved the ball on that long drive. I think this personality of this team that they're trying to build is wear you out in the first half and then take advantage of you in the second half.
Yeah.
And they're gonna rely on the play action and they're gonna rely on the run. And they're gonna let the big boys up front do their thing. That's why I think the personality of this team is going to emerge throughout the season. And that's how the Lions are going to win games because they're going to be playing man-to-man. This is what they've shown in the first 2 preseason games on defense. Now, they had testy practice, from my understanding. They had testy practices where the defense was giving the offense, can you say H-E double hockey sticks?
You sure can.
Okay.
Yeah, we can say whatever.
But, that the defense was giving the offense hell this past week. And, I read somewhere now they got the Hutch rule in saying that Hutch is ready to go.
I saw that as well.
Yeah, Hutch was tearing it up coming off the edge. And even though he gets the quarterback sack, they're letting the quarterback do his thing to get the ball downfield. So I think the defense is going to be stingy. They showed that tonight. They did a very nice job of bouncing back. Kudos to them and kudos to the staff for getting those guys that were out on the field ready to play. And kudos to the starters getting the backups that were playing ready to play because they know that's not the standard that the Lions are used to playing with over the past few years.
Right. And that's where the conversation that we had over and over about how much more impactful and really valuable the practices are than what we get to see, once a week in a game setting. It's ramping it up in practice. It's Dan Campbell talking about this defense getting nasty and really being game wreckers, specifically Aiden Hutchinson. All that should be music to Lions fans' ears, and I think it is. One other note I wanted to get to, just because it broke after our weekly squad show, before our post-game show, but the Ennis Rakestraw news, unfortunately, that his season comes to an end before it can even get started. And his rookie season was derailed by injuries. You feel for the kid, a second-round pick that out of Missouri that could really help this team and seemed poised to do that in year 2 after suffering the hamstring and other injuries in year 1, and now it's the shoulder surgery. You can only really chalk it up to all the different bad luck that is associated with injuries and the wide range of emotions he's got to be feeling at this time, knowing that his season is over before it even starts.
Yeah, you feel bad for the kid. I mean, it seems like we keep saying that over and over and over again. Let's talk a little bit about the Dolphins. So let's talk a little bit about the Dolphins to wrap it up. So Dolphins are coming up here. We're talking about the Lions' first home game, even though it is preseason. You get a chance to experience of what it's like to. I'm not sure where the team hotel is for the Lions, but everybody that is, it's old hat for the players that have been here, but it's something new to experience, and they'll get a chance to experience it twice for the new players before the regular season begins. And I think that's very important. That's where taking that fourth preseason game out of the schedule kind of hinders the player a little bit, not the coaching staff as much, but hinders the player a little bit, depending on whether or not you have. I would rather play 2 games on the road during the preseason and 1 home game. But that's just me, just to get in. Okay, this is our mode of operation for road games. Get used to it. And then, the home games, I mean, you're going to experience that 10 times during the regular season. Was it 10 times? Well, no, let's go 10 plus times, because they're going to be playing at home for the playoffs.
I love it. That's where I thought you were going with that.
Yeah. Well, that's how I am going with it.
I love it.
So, but they, so it's going to be the first home game. It's going to be the first time that, a player's going to show up. He's going to, where do you park your car whenever you show up? Do I walk to the stadium if they stay downtown? Where's my locker going to be? Where do we get taped? It's all the little things that just kind of, you think that just kind of fall into place, but it's all that mental preparation that players have and thrive on to get ready to play a game. And it's great players are creatures of habit.
I was just going to say that.
They are creatures of habit, and they know exactly what they're doing at whatever time of the day, depending on the time of the week or how many days away from the game is. Then that's their mojo. That's how they get ready to play. Yeah. And that's their system, and you don't mess with it, and they don't mess with it.
No doubt about that. And I'm excited to see it. I think on top of that, where you look into that preseason game number 3, and it feels a little bit more like a dress rehearsal as opposed to a glorified scrimmage like we had in the first 2 preseason games. And what do you say we discuss that a little bit more this week on our Locked On Lions weekly show? Make sure you check it out. I believe we'll be on Wednesday, ? To be determined. We got to finalize that. We will. But make sure you set up your notifications so that when we go live, you'll be ready and you won't miss anything. So Lions Dolphins on Saturday, I believe 1 o'clock kickoff from Ford Field. And of course, we'll have the post-game show for you. Bradford Banta, Jake Riepma with you on a Locked On Lions squad show. Final thoughts, my good friend, as we close it out for the night.
Hey, this team's ascending. They showed it tonight. They showed a little grit in their week of preparation, getting ready for the Falcons. Many prayers out to Morice Norris. And you can't say enough. He's a brother, and I feel for him, and all my best to him and his family.
Amen to that. I echo those same remarks, and say ditto in its entirety, because that's what we take away from tonight. Life is precious, and by all indications, he's going to make it to the other side of the injury, and what the recovery looks like, that's obviously to be determined. But first and foremost, life being precious and number one. So I echo those same remarks, my friend, and call it a night tonight, and look forward to post-game show number 3, weekly show number 2, if we keep the counts going. But it's a Locked On Lions squad show, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So my thanks to Bradford Banta. I'm Jake Riepma. Make sure you check out the Locked On Lions daily show with Matt Derry. Set up your notifications, like and subscribe. And a reminder, it's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team each and every day, free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Have a wonderful night. See you next time on the Locked On Lions squad show.